Kia ora. Hey, happy Resurrection Easter Sunday. Today I am talking to you from Alexandria, Virginia, just across the river, right along the Potomac River, separating Maryland and Virginia, right along the area where Washington, D.C. is. And yesterday I got to go out, enjoy a nice 8-mile walk, and headed on over, more like a power walk, and headed south down to Mount Vernon, the famed estate of George Washington. And I was going to record this there, but I was running out of phone battery and didn't have my charger block on me, unfortunately. So I decided to record this just at home here in the apartment, where I've been spending the last several weeks as all this has unfolded. The really quick catch up for those who haven't heard exactly what chaos and stuff ensued is that I was taking some annual leave and going to be with my amazing, wonderful girlfriend Deborah, my trip that I had planned since September, October, and her brother is getting married. Her younger brother is getting married, and so I really wanted to be there with her and with her family for this momentous occasion, and with a few different, border closures impending. Acknowledged before I left that I may not get back into New Zealand, and was really counting on quick communications and the global media that we have, which brings you up to the minute breaking news, to help get the message that, hey, you've got 48 hours to get back in the air, and if you're not in the air in 48 hours, you can't get back. And that sort of came through, and the authorities had to make the call that they made. And that was that, hey, if you're not in the air today, which was that Thursday in New Zealand, heading towards the Friday, if you're not in the air already, basically, you're not going to get back into the country unless you are a permanent resident or citizen. And I do not have permanent residency for as many years, these last 5, now into my 6th year, going in and out of Aotearoa, New Zealand. I don't have residency, for some of you who still can't believe it or not. I haven't been in country consecutively long enough to qualify for permanent residency. And so we woke up in the UK on that Thursday morning, the day after helping her younger brother and his fiance rush some last-minute arrangements, get everything with the family moved, to be able to have a very private wedding ceremony there for them. And we woke up that next morning to the news coming that, I wouldn't be able to get back in. And so we scrambled and got everything packed, and got on the road to Heathrow. And by the time that we got to Heathrow a few hours later, maybe 5 hours later, 6 hours later, Deborah's flight wouldn't let her board because it was through a country that was no longer letting flights out. And so it was going to be a one-way flight, and she was going to be stuck in the airport, basically. So, of course, they didn't want that, so they were stopping them from even boarding in Heathrow. So at the last minute, we were trying to get her flights refunded and find her a flight for either later that day, since we were already at Heathrow, or the next day before any further closures or shutdowns occurred, preventing her from getting back to New Zealand, since she does have permanent residency, which by the blessing of God came through quickly over the Christmas New Year's time period. And we were trying to find me a flight because while I had a delightful offer to stay with her family and to see what that might look like for the next several weeks or potentially a couple of months, I really wanted the opportunity to get back to the States, that if I was going to be stuck someplace, I wanted to be stuck someplace where I had the legal right and option to get a job and to make some money to try and work on a little bit of that leftover university and credit card debt from back in the States, as well as just trying to be around friends and family if I could be in the States. So we finally found her a flight and me a flight that were several hours apart the next day on the Friday afternoon. So we said a tearful goodbye. I said a tearful goodbye. I was the one crying. Not a surprise to many of you. And we went our separate ways at the terminals, and Deborah made it back safely to Aotearoa, New Zealand on the Sunday, and then that Friday night I made it back into the States. And I changed my flights at the last minute to only go through to DC instead of to Charlotte, because I didn't have any place in Charlotte to stay. I didn't have any place on offer to go to, and I did for DC, and DC had one of the approved airports that I could fly through anyways. So flew into DC. My amazing mate Rachel grabbed me from the airport and proceeded for 2 weeks of isolation. And it's been an interesting time. The environment around DC is quite different than I suspect and have heard that it is from friends and family around the country and other places. The environment here around DC is that there are just a lot of essential workers between different government jobs and agencies, as well as just around this area of Alexandria, Old Town, that I'm currently staying in. And so being directly next to a major highway with about 6-7 lanes each direction, it's sometimes quite a noisy place, but the last 3 days have started to quiet down, and so you can really start to tell something's changing and it's enduring and starting to go into place more here for people to stay in place and to restrict their travel. And it's been a really difficult time for me as well. And that's more of what I'm here to give an update on, not just where I am, but how I am. Because it's much easier, as you'll recognize, instead of constantly trying to go through my friends list or message inbox or emails and trying to respond to every single person individually. Obviously, this gives us the power to send out one blast message, and most people will get it. You know, right now on Easter Sunday, here at about 5:40 p.m., the plan was that I would right now be side stage or just down at the front of stage, and I would be listening to the amazing David and Christy Lynn Breetveld, and they would be giving us the pre-show. Was my hope and dream for them to be the openers for Easterfest 2020 Sunday evening experience, featuring the Watoto Children's Choir, featuring Choir 107, who would be in a few minutes taking the stage and presenting their production, We Will Go, to the people of Aotearoa, New Zealand at Easterfest, at our 5th anniversary event. The hopes and dreams of the last 5 years, no matter where I've been in the world, no matter where God has led me around Terra, is that we'd be able to partner with Watoto and get them to Easterfest, we'd be able to use the stage that God has gifted us in Topol at the center of the North Island as the events capital of Aotearoa, and we'd be able to partner our mission to see people reached in a non-traditional way, in a creative, imaginative, out of the pew, not at 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning way. We'd be able to match that with the infectious joy and amazing presence that the Watoto Children's Choirs bring with them all around the world. And the very first night that the Easterfest dream got put in my path, Sunday evening, first weekend of November, end of 2015, was that this would happen one day, that we would have Watoto come to New Zealand and come to the bottom of the earth and celebrate Jesus' resurrection with us in Topol, with a few thousand people, and be able to really, pack home this amazing experience for everybody involved, and be able to help Watoto be introduced to a new generation of Kiwis, a new generation of those who are experiencing their music, their energy, their vibrancy, the vitality of their ministry, the importance of what they're doing throughout Uganda and South Sudan, around Juba, what they're doing to rescue the lost, the orphaned, the abused, the thrown away, the left at the police stations, the babies thrown down a pit latrine, the ones whose families have been impacted by HIV, by AIDS, who the parents have gone off to work a job in another country and have been kept as indentured servants and domestic slaves, to highlight their ministry and what they're doing through their children's villages, through their babies' homes, the opportunity to help bring Living Hope and the women's ministry and the sewing and business skills and tailoring and all the other things that they bring to the table when you're looking at a holistic approach to how do we help establish a more resilient community, how do we play our part as the church in rescuing and raising the next generation of leaders, of specifically Ugandan leaders, and rebuilding their nation together through that. And that's been a dream and a passion for the last 5 years. And what I've got to go through now, these last few weeks, and what I've got to continue moving through, is what happens when those dreams aren't realized. The SARS-CoV-2 pandemic is in the here and now of far more importance, and I've been grieving every day as the numbers come in from around the world, whether it's 1 or 2 deaths in New Zealand, or whether it's 947 deaths in Italy or Spain or New York City or across America, or whatever abuse and xenophobia and racism has been targeted at people of Asiatic backgrounds, or Chinese-owned businesses have been attacked. It's been grieving me this whole time. And stopping to recognize that in the midst of all of this has been first priority. And lifting up those families, lifting up their whānau, lifting up their community is all a part of this journey. It's all a part of what I've been asked to walk out as a part of my testimony in my life. And in that as well, I know that I can't avoid and I can't ignore what's going on inside of me and that I'm struggling with. When something that I've been dreaming of for 5.5 years doesn't come to realization in the final weeks leading up to it. I posted on my Instagram and Facebook stories, if you follow me there, a flashback to June, July of 2017 when I was training for the Ironman New Zealand event. I had volunteered at the event and won one of the 2 free entries into the following year's event. And when I went back to the States, I had bought a bike. I was going running and cycling every day. And out on one of my runs, for those of you who are familiar with the university area, out around the little lake there beside the Hilton and the Chick-fil-A and all of that. And I was coming around one of the back sides of that, running right along flat, even sidewalk, felt the most unusual twinge and sharp knife-cutting pain in one spot, and a fiery feeling that I had never felt before, and prayerfully I will never experience again, and had no idea then that was a hernia in my right shin down here. And so ended up that it continued to get worse until the doctors actually would schedule a ultrasound 4 months later to get it looked at and to actually investigate it and say, actually, you need corrective surgery on this. This is only going to get worse, and we need to actually go ahead and get you stitched up. The soonest appointment is in 4 weeks. Try and take it easy until then. And so recognizing that I couldn't continue my dream to successfully complete an Ironman event, I had to pass on that opportunity, which was a real gift because I got to give it to a guy that I know back in Topol, Malcolm, who went on to smash his age category and his personal records and thoughts on what he would be able to do, and had an amazing time. And he's gone back to bite off some more and to do some more triathlons and to do some other events. And he's just found such an opportunity in that. And I love that I was able to pass that on to him, that if I couldn't compete in it, then someone that I know and that I value and that I've done life with, most specifically through Easterfest, I could share that with him. And that was kind of, in a way, it was way easier to work through, because then I got to take a sigh of relief and say, I ain't got to do it now. I don't have to worry about going and doing a triathlon. Like, I don't have to worry about actually making it across the line now. I've got a medical excuse not to. But there's still a little bit in me that wants to complete that. One day, we'll see. But when it comes to Easterfest, when it comes to denominational branches of the Christian faith working together in ways that are not nearly heard about to the extent and with such perseverance as Easterfest has been. When it comes to Easterfest, it's an entirely different story. During our first event in 2016, we were blessed with some amazing Capernwray volunteers from outside Cambridge, New Zealand. And they came in not knowing what they were getting themselves into very much, even though we tried to explain a little bit. But we had never done it before, so we didn't quite know what we were explaining anyways. We were just kind of saying, this is what an event's like, this is what we're predicting our event's going to be like, and we'd love for you to come volunteer with us. And they blew it out of the park. Man, we could not have gotten through that first event without them. They were such a godsend. And I still keep a couple of mementos of their visit. And during one of our prayer evenings for the event, leading up to the event, someone was drawing during the prayer meeting, and I'll post this with a link to the video or something later on. Maybe I'll get creative and you'll see it pop up here, possibly. We'll see. But it's a map of Aotearoa, New Zealand, including Stewart Island, don't worry. And there's, on the top of the North Island, across the top of the country, is this touch of Pentecost Holy Spirit fire. And laying across part of it is the flag of Aotearoa, New Zealand. And there's a cross behind this whole image. And just across the top of the whole thing, it just says, "Revival break forth. Lord, behold your children in unity. Delight. Increase." And then there's a little drawing of the lakefront of Taupo facing the mounts Ngarahoe, Ruapehu, and Tongariro. And I immediately took a couple shots of that, said, want to remember this for as long as life endures, and this is a part of our story, our journey. And that premise, that prayer, that backdrop has been behind my involvement in Easterfest the entire time, that revival is breaking forth in this world, that churches are coming back together in ways that we've never seen, period, since denominational splits. We're seeing different portions of the body finding ways to recognize when one is the eye and when one is the pinky finger and when one is the heart and when one is an artery. And we've been finding ways through these last several years, especially the last decade, it's been brewing and simmering, and now it's starting to bubble up and to froth up a bit. And this message of revival breaking forth over Aotearoa, of the church working in unity, of Salvation Army and Seventh-day Adventist and people from the C3 movement and from the Catholic Church and New Zealand Baptist and people from Equippers and the Acts churches of Aotearoa, New Zealand, people from the Open Brotherhood and from the Anglican Church and from the Elam, all coming together and working together for one purpose, to move one name forward, to put the name of Ihu Karaiti, Jesus Christ, the name that's above all every other name, forward and prominent, has been why I've continued through whatever personal struggles and my personal life events have been, why I've continuously gone back to Aotearoa, New Zealand. And some of you, I know, who are watching this, haven't been able to get that. You haven't been able to understand that. And I hope that in some way you will, that will be revealed to you, that this is one of the most important tasks, this is one of the most important works in the globe, is to see the body of the church reunited, to see vine branches drawn back in as the Lord works across denominations and irrespective of geographical locations. And we have this opportunity to work together. We have this opportunity to do something to impact our community, something to take His name forward in ways that have only been dreams before. And the vehicle for that has been Easterfest. and with partners like the Huriroas and Pastor Takbana and Martin Steele and so many local church leaders around Topol. I can't even begin to name every single leader that's been involved and has had a hand at this, and people that have been in core teams, and people that have been in financial meetings, and people that have been partners, and people who have been financial supporters, and people who have just donated stuff out of their own houses and batches to make sure whatever we needed to take care of an event, to take care of a room, to take care of guests, to take care of volunteers, that we had it. And so that's part of the reason why this week has been especially difficult for me. I thank God that as of right now, I don't currently know anyone who has actually died of the COVID-19 virus. I thank God that even with the bit of travel for me going on my annual leave and then heading to the States, I didn't contract anything that I'm aware of, and that no one, including my housemate or anybody around us, has gotten sick. But I know that part of my story is accountability and transparency and vulnerability. And that has to start with those of you closest to me and then work out from there. I've invited you into my story. I've invited you in. And there's just a couple of things I wanted to mention. You know, work-wise, I will officially be on leave with no pay as of April 29th from Topol Baptist Church while we await the reopening of Immigration New Zealand and the lowering of the alert levels and the slow return to whatever the new normal is going to become. I do not know when I will be returning to Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I do not know when I'll be returning to Topol Baptist Church. I'm looking for jobs around the Alexandria, Washington, D.C. area, starting with those within a couple of miles that I can walk and bike to. And this week I'll start fanning out my applications a bit further. So I'll be unemployed in a few weeks, crashing at a friend's flat in Alexandria, and continuously pursuing what the Lord might be trying to speak to me and guide me through, and where He might be hoping to take me in this and through this and after this. You know, I have no idea if in this occasion the prayers that I've had poured over me for about 9 years now of a double portion of God's anointing and of His providence and of His provision, I don't know for sure if those things are going to come to fruition in this time or if they're for a time later down the track. I mean, you know, it gives me a lot of hope when Job 42:10 says, "And the Lord restored the fortunes of Job when he had prayed for his friends, and the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had had before." So I know that God does double portions. I know that's not just some prosperity prayer somebody's just had, you know, empty words over me. That's been their real and honest prayer for me and their earnest prayer for me. And I accept that, and in Jesus' name I claim that whatever He has for me in this life, I will be open to receive it, and that whatever He needs to take away from me, I will willingly give up and allow Him to expand whatever He wants to in my life, and remove that which needs to be removed. But even further than that potential hope, I have a deeper hope. And that deeper hope is based on the confirmation verse that I was given when I was purposely seeking God for about a 10-11 month period of my life, 2016, 2017, really trying to pray into what God had for me and what his calling on my life was. And he had given me a vision and showed me his hand at work in the world around me, and seeing tall cedars of revival raised up around the world. And then several months later, he spoke through a prayer meeting, somebody who had never met me before and had no idea what my life was about. And all they knew was that I was seeking some discernment about whether or not to go back to New Zealand or not. And they got a word of knowledge prayer that qualified what was to come. And what did come after that word of knowledge prayer was that I am called to the people of Aotearoa, New Zealand, that I am called to Tangata Whenua, the people of the land, and that God's had me since the very beginning of all of this ministry, and that he's going to continue to have me in that, and that my calling is to be an apostle, is to be a bridge builder, to be someone who calls out situations and untruths when I encounter them, someone who probably is not welcome in every church in America or around the world, someone who sometimes will teach and sometimes will do all the dishes and scrub everybody's feet, and there'll be all sorts of opportunities in between. And after that, a couple of months after that, I did this thing where I grabbed my Bible that I've had for this entire amazing ministry journey since I first went to Watoto Church in January of 2013, and this Bible has been with me the entire time. And I grabbed my Bible and said, God, show me something. Prove it to me. I know you can do it. I know there's a word somewhere in this book that's going to prove that prayer and that vision of me being a connector, of me being a bridge builder. And he gave it to me as soon as I opened my Bible, and the first thing that I put my finger on was 1 Corinthians chapter 9 down here in this right inner column, and it said, am I not free? Am I not an apostle? And I literally did this. I slammed my Bible shut, threw it down, and I was like, God, seriously? Really, dude? Like, okay, I know I asked for it, but man, you just... Okay, that one sentence. Am I not an apostle? I have some days no idea what that still looks like, to be carrying that out around the world wherever I find myself. And some days I know exactly what that's for. Like after our Halloween alternative light party, and I have the opportunity to reset the auditorium and to vacuum the place, and I'm privileged enough to be able to complain that I don't have any help when I'm in such a fortunate spot that I can be standing in this amazing facility that I was standing in, and be grumbling that nobody's responded to my call to come help vacuum the place and reset this, 250-seater auditorium. And I'm grumbling, what am I doing here? Like, really? Like, was that word that I heard really from you? And standing about 4 feet away from the stage right corner of the sound production booth, really just heard God drop into my spirit. It's because I'm preparing you to be a church builder, a church planter. And kind of like I threw down my Bible in that moment when I read that, am I not an apostle line, now this 2 years later, hearing this soft, gentle, and ever so true word that God's preparing me to be a church planter, I kind of just let the vacuum drop out of my hand. It was like, really? That's why I'm vacuuming the floor right now? And God's been true through it all, and He's had me and sustained me through the entirety of it. So whether or not the 107th Watoto Children's Choir is performing in Topol this evening, and whether or not Easterfest was even able to happen this year, which of course it didn't, regardless of that, God's still good. He's still had me since the very beginning, and from even before I can remember. His word is still good. His hope still secures mine. I can't hinge it all on just one event, one geographical time and place. And I've got to see what he has. So, how am I? I'm a mess. But I've thankfully got some really good support around me. And I've got people that I have been reaching out to and who are reaching out to me. If you know of a job, please let me know. I'd really appreciate that in this time. Yes, I would appreciate your prayers. And I'd appreciate being able to pray for you. It'll give me something to do in the hours when I'm walking and biking around, getting my fitness up. Several of you will be very happy to know that I've already lost nearly 7 kilos, about 15 pounds in the last month. Partially stress-induced, but also because I'm just doing way more walking and cycling than I've done in several years. And so hoping to get a little bit of this chunked away, and I'd love to spend that time while I'm out in creation, praying for you and lifting you up to our Father in heaven. So, this is me saying that I appreciate you taking the time to watch this and listen to this message. This is me saying Kia ora, greetings from where I currently find myself. And this is me saying that I love you all. I'm very thankful for you and your support in this time and in this ministry and all the things that you've heard about and witnessed me being able to do in the ministry. And I really want to just say right now, as I wrap this up, that wherever I end up, whenever the time comes for me to go back to Aotearoa, New Zealand, or wherever else the Lord might have for me, you can expect a whole lot of whimsy to continue going forward. And you can continue to expect that there will be a very energetic, very vibrant Thomas turning up, and that I will be here to help you and to work alongside you and to serve you. Muirza, one who serves. I will be here to serve you in any way that I can. So reach out to me and let me know, and I will work on responding to the inbox of messages I currently have, so that way I can make room for your message to drop in there too. I love you. Aroha, aroha. Love and greetings from Alexandria, Virginia. Tina koto, tina koto, tina koto katoa. Thank you all for your time.